Manchester, United Kingdom. I think the fun fact about him before he introduces himself is he gets to do interviews with just some more than extremely interesting people. He told me, I guess you folks might be interested in will.i.am, but it also includes the second man on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, Sir Richard Branson, Maya Angelou, etc. And he's got a book of the many experiences and thoughts from that called Thought Economics, coming out in February. So with that, I'm pleased to turn it over to Vikas Shah in the United Kingdom. All yours, Vikas, and I'll stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Right, let me just get my screen running. First of all, a real welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining today. What we're going to cover off today really is a bit of storytelling, because not just when it comes to the elevator pitch, for any business presentation you do, the storytelling aspect of how you talk about your business is absolutely critical. The format of today is there's going to be a kind of core session, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how we get on. And then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end to have a group discussion around each of those presentations and to cover any other questions you may have. So we're going to keep it interactive as well. So where possible, I'm going to try and pick on people if you don't volunteer, because the main thing is, especially when it comes to storytelling for your business, it is uncomfortable. No one likes public speaking that much, but the only way to get over that fear is to keep doing it and practice. So I'd love it if, when we ask for a volunteer, if you do kind of chime in, and Amin can kind of enable you, but let's make sure we all do get a chance to volunteer. Session rules, it is interactive. If you've got any questions or queries, just say, don't be shy. And also, as we go along, if there's anything you're unsure about, ask questions as we go along. And there's no such thing as a bad question, because this might be new to some of you and not so new to others. Work with each other in your team if you are here in your team, and obviously be polite. It's a Saturday. And also, first rule of entrepreneurship, right? The first thing we've got to kill is the bullshit. And excuse my language there, but I've been judging my background for you. I've been in business, for a long time in technology entrepreneurship. We've been involved in investing in a bunch of businesses. And I've been a judge at the Rice Business Plan competition for at least the last 8 or 9 years. So kind of been around the block a little bit in this world. And one of the most common things that stops people getting funded is this, right? It is so easy to jump on buzzwords, to jump on trends and things like that to try and get funded. Every now and again, it might work, but in general, most investors and people looking at your presentations will see through that. And if you try and bluff or try and bull, you're dead in the water before you start it. So that's one really important lesson we want to start with. And the example here was when my cat launched his startup, Kata, and using a couple of buzzwords and a couple of financial bits of magic, he could create a startup worth over $100 billion. So I'm going to just jump in with a bit of interactivity to start with. So what I want to do is I'm going to pick on 2 volunteers, right? So I'd love it if you could self-select and maybe put your hand up in here, and Amin can let me know who's connected. But I want to just get you to talk to me about your business, right? The whole point of an elevator pitch is really simple. The reason it's called an elevator pitch is, imagine you get in a lift or an elevator, your dream investor or customer or partner is in there, and you're like, oh wow, here's my big chance. That 60 seconds is what you say to them next. In the real world, elevator pitches are very common. They're kind of entry criteria for a lot of business plan competitions. You may ask them to do them at investment settings as well. But the main reason I'm encouraging you to get this nailed is this is a great thinking tool. Because if you cannot explain your entire business proposition clearly in under a minute, you don't know your business well enough, right? So who's going to kick us off? Who's going to be our first volunteer to do this, to give us an elevator pitch?
So if you want to speak, just go ahead and unmute yourself, and then I'll call on you to speak, just so that it's no one's talking over each other. So
okay,
right now no one else is unmuted. Everyone's still muted. Put up an emoji if you're having trouble unmuting. I can unmute you.
Okay.
For my
if not, I'm gonna literally start picking on people.
Okay.
I think this is the engineer coming out in most of our students.
Okay, so I'm gonna randomly pick on people using this magical technology I have here. So the first team I've landed on is Clean Electric. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I write down who I've picked on first, and that way we'll make sure everyone gets a chance. So if we could get someone from Clean Electric, and if you could unmute, and in up to 60 seconds, you don't need to use the full time, just give us an introduction in the style of an elevator pitch. Imagine someone you've just got in the lift with your perfect investor or partner. How would you talk about your business? Akash, go ahead.
So, hello Vikas, it was nice meeting you. So we are building, we aim to power electric mobility with clean energy, and for that we are building electric trucks, and that is going to powered by a clean energy charging infrastructure. And we aim to start from light commercial vehicle and then to go for medium commercial vehicle, and we are going to provide 30% saving to our fleet operators. And with our next generation 2 electric platform, we are unlocking 35% extra space for our customer to earn extra 35% of the revenue. And it is a massive opportunity. India is a 1.3 billion people's country, and every year 10 lakhs vehicles are getting sold. We aim to cover segment by segment, all the segments, starting from the smaller size vehicle, and sky is the limit. So it will be awesome to work along with you.
Yeah. Now, okay, well, first of all, good job on actually going first. I know you didn't volunteer, but it's always tough to go first, right? The reason I called time is this: if you're at a business plan competition, however good your 10-minute presentation might be, if there's a 60-second elevator pitch, if you go over by even a second, that can disqualify you from the whole rest of the competition. Because in many cases, that's the entry criteria for that competition. So keep practicing it to try and get it to under a minute, 58, 59 seconds. And the great thing is, the more you practice, it becomes automatic, right? So I'm going to give you all one tip, and then I'm going to get one more team to come in, right? So a lot of competitions now, whether it's the real world or virtual world, right? When you're doing an elevator, you've got to think of it as a bit of drama, right? So inject a bit of drama, try and move, try and imagine that you're at a podium with all these people around you and you're trying to get them really excited about what you do. Because if the person listening to you isn't as passionate, doesn't feel your passion, your pitch is going to get lost. So let me see. Does anybody want to volunteer? Or should I
can I go on, Vikas?
Yeah, who's that?
Hi, this is Pramod from Last Triple.
From Last Triple. Oh, hi, Pramod.
Yes.
And he's from Mysore. And by the way, all of you, we do have a separate prize that we're planning. So on September 12th, all of you will be doing this for real. So he's from Mysore, Team Last Ripple, Vikas.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the timer. And
Perfect.
And I noticed we're still early on in today's session, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop you at 60 seconds just so you start to get an idea of how long that feels. And it's really weird because it isn't that long, but when you're in front of 100 people doing it, it feels like a long time, right? Correct. Whenever you're ready, I'll start timing when you start speaking.
I think I'm ready.
Yep.
Perfect. So Last Triple is India's first initiative to talk about something called death. Because we all consider death as a taboo, right? Death to be a taboo, death to be something called a negative emotion in India. And Last Triple became that one initiative in our country to make this taboo called death into something called a happening green event. So this is Pramod from Last Triple, wherein we try to plant a tree for every death in our country. So Last Triple created a patent pending planting system to create the ashes into a beautiful cremated plant for the pet families, to make the pet families remains of the ashes into a beautiful memory tree. So Last Triple is proud to say that we are here to plant a tree for every death, to not only assist the pet parents emotionally, but also environmentally, also having a sustainable funeral system in a country to have a one-stop solution for the whole funerals from A to Z for the pet family and related to humans to make death a positive happening ending for everybody, to make death start a new life. Thank you.
Great. Good job. 30. So you did that in 54 seconds, which is excellent, right? So the thing to remember is you've got a lot to get in 60 seconds, right? So as we go through today, I want you all to think about it this way. Imagine that you're going for investment. You've got 60 seconds. So each second costs you money, right? And the way to think about what is or is not relevant for your elevator is, let's say your elevator is costing you $10,000 a second based on how much money you're raising. Is the thing you're about to say going to add $10,000 of value to your business? If it isn't, cut it, because it's about getting people excited and getting them to take that meeting with you, give them your card, or take you to that next stage. Also, in practice, when you start doing this for your own businesses, I want you to record yourself and watch it back, because that'll encourage you to find that natural pace. It's completely normal that when we talk, all of us in that situation will start to speed up, right? That's completely normal. Everywhere in the world, everyone does it. But if you're presenting, you need to slow it down and make it a bit more like theater. So Pramod, like for example, with Last Ripple, you could start your presentation and go, "Hi, I'm Pramod. I'm here from Last Ripple in Mysore. And I'm here to talk to you about something we all will face one day, death." And then you take a pause. It's about making an impact with what you say, okay? So great start to great beginnings. So let's move on. So why do elevator pitches matter, right? So first of all, prize money. The vast majority of business competitions will have a prize for elevators. So even if a company doesn't make it through to the quarterfinals, semifinals, you could still win good money on elevator competition. So at the RICE competition, it's up to $2,000 just for that, right? It's also a hurdle to compete in most competitions. This is the most important one I can tell you about. If you're trying to apply for some of the toughest business competitions in the world, which are also the sources of a lot of your angel and seed funding, doing an elevator pitch is the hurdle. If you don't do it right, and if it's not exciting, you will not progress in the competition, period, right? Sales is also really important. Across our portfolio of businesses, it's really important that my sales team are able to talk about what we do, how we do it, and who we are quickly, cleanly, efficiently, and consistently. And so getting this right matters. And the final one, which as founders really matters, is it's a thinking tool. If you're being asked to kind of concisely start to talk about what you do and what your business is, it helps you think about it better. Because if you can't explain it clearly, you don't know it well enough. So here's a little bit of research actually, in terms of how investors make their decisions. So look at it this way. If you say to people externally sometimes, you know, what makes people invest in businesses? You might be thinking, well, you know, it's the growth potential, how much money I'm going to make, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is the vast majority of investors would rather invest in a great entrepreneur with a mediocre idea than an average entrepreneur with a brilliant idea, because the key word for investors is execution, right? So what that means is that when you're doing your elevator pitch or your 10-minute presentation, you have to be communicating your enthusiasm. And where it says trustworthiness of your entrepreneur here, that really refers to, do I believe this individual can execute? Because you're trying to reassure them. So whether it's by angels or venture capitalists, enthusiasm and trust, expertise and sales potential are consistently, you know, in that top list. So that's one of the things we're doing here. And in terms of where it fits in, you know, usually you've got that first hurdle of an elevator pitch. They may then read your executive summary. They'll then go through your pitch deck. If you make it through that stage, you'll probably get a business plan review. And if you make it through that, you're into due diligence. So that's where it fits into the continuum. In terms of where it fits into the entire fundraising journey, On this chart, you've got pre-money and post-money along the bottom. So post-money, obviously, after you've received your investment. And then that vertical axis you see is complexity, i.e. how complex is the thing that I am about to create. So right up in the top to the left, you see the business plan. Typically pre-money, close to when you're getting funded, probably the most complex of all the documents you're going to produce. Over to the right, medium complexity, usually once you've started your business running, is your investor report. And over on the bottom left, you'll see your elevator pitch. Very early stage in your journey normally, and it needs to be simple because that's what leads into everything else. And keep this with you. All the slides are available. And when you're trying to determine how you're building the things within your pitches, this is a good reference point, right? And here's what it is and what it isn't, right? I don't remember where I had these definitions from, but an elevator pitch is a concise, carefully planned and well-practiced description about your company that anyone could understand in around 60 seconds, right? And the anyone bit is important. When we're judging at some of these top business plan competitions, we're often seeing business ideas that are coming from scientists and researchers and postgrads and people like that inventing phenomenal molecules that do all sorts of crazy things. But it means that even for an idiot like me, I should be able to understand it from that 60-second pitch, right? It's not a sales pitch. You're not there to win that contract. You're there to move forward and get to the next stage. And part of that is making sure that you yourself understand what it is that you really do. So this is a great chart to help you explain that. So if you look at the iPhone, the phone is the core product. You have supplemental features such as the app, the apps on the phone. And then you've got a symbolic and experiential and experimental benefits, such as it can help me stay healthy, right? So it's really important to try and get through that. So let me just pick on somebody. So is the team here from Atlanta, Aerodyne? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. So
Hi.
Tell me, so if you had to think about your own business, what's your core product? What is it that you're doing? Are there any other supplemental features and what are the other benefits that you might have?
Yeah, so we're creating a aerodynamic attachment for tractor trailers. And the core product is it reduces fuel costs for fleets, trucking fleets. And the supplemental features are it's completely automatic. So drivers don't have to interact with it at all. It just opens as it deploys on the road. And it also has a geo-tracking function. So it can track the trailer as it's going down the road. And fleet owners are able to see when the device is open from their office. They don't have to rely on the driver's information for that.
Okay, so that's really interesting. And by the way, I loved your deck. By the way, I think you guys have got a really strong deck. I think one reason it's really important to get this bit right, though, is it helps you understand what is the buyer going to be concerned about. When the iPhone first came out, the core product, it's a phone. It texts, it makes calls, whatever, right? So, for example, with yourselves, the core product is just, it makes trucks, it's a device that makes vehicles more aerodynamic, right? Period. The supplemental features might be the things that you talked about with, geo-tracking, et cetera. And the symbolic and experimental benefits might be how that allows you to align with better messaging around how responsible my business is. So it might be that you say in your elevator, looking at a model like this, hi, we're Aerodyne. Is it Aerodyne, isn't it?
Aerodyne, yeah.
Yeah, Aerodyne, that's it. Yeah, I think I couldn't read my handwriting. I thought I'd written it a dime,
Okay.
like a dime bar. Anyway, so you could say, hi, we're Aerodyne and our product makes trucks X% more aerodynamic. This helps you and your fleet operator save money. But not just that, our product, a couple of your supplemental benefits. And then moreover, by using our product, you are signaling to your customers, your stakeholders, and your suppliers that we believe in a more environmentally sound logistics industry, right? So oftentimes, every business here will have one of those. Every business here will have at least one item in each, and sometimes more. Don't forget that oftentimes that bottom right-hand corner, the symbolic benefits of your product can be some of the most powerful ones in your pitch. So I'll give you a great example of that. So, you know, we all have seen, you know, supercars and Ferraris and things like that around, right? Here's the interesting thing. If you're looking at 3 different supercars, Ferrari, Porsche, probably Tesla, and Bugatti or whatever, the core product's the same. The core product's pretty much exactly the same. They're all very fast cars. The supplemental features on all of those cars is basically the same. They all have great suspension. They might all have the same interior stuff. But the symbolic benefit is where it makes money. The symbolic benefit is, I have a Ferrari, I have a Bentley. That brand benefit of that product is the absolute killer, right? So always think about this when you're thinking about the story of what you do. And it's also important to be realistic about where you fit into that mesh of innovation, right? So again, this is a really good little quick reference. So along the left, you have the level of innovation, right? So at the bottom is something which is an existing product or service up to a radical innovation. Along the bottom, we have an existing market across to a radically new market. So bottom left is a copycat product. So it's an existing product into an existing market. Great examples, AirAsia, or something like Aldi, which is a massive supermarket chain in Europe. On the bottom right, a massive paradigm shift with an existing product would be something like Ryanair, or in the US, Southwest Airlines, where they went into an existing, they create these an existing product, airlines, with a massive shift in the market, low-cost airlines, right? Top left, a brand new product or service innovation in an existing market. Dyson, this is one of the classic examples. A brand new way of making a vacuum cleaner or a Hoover, depending on where you are in the world, right? And right over to the top right, which is unicorn land, is new to the world industries. So social media, when that came out, music streaming, when that came out, right? So let me quickly pick a couple of you and let's have a talk through as a group about where you sit in here. So let me pick. Okay, so do we have Hair and you? Are you here? Hair and you? If you are here and you don't answer, I'm going to pick on you twice later. Okay, I don't think you're here. Okay, what about Daniel from Volant? Oh, hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Great, cool. Good to hear from you. So, Daniel, so tell us quickly about your product, and then as a group, let's think about where your product fits into this mix.
Sure. So we created a drone that can communicate through a mesh network. So that expands the distance at which it's able to communicate and receive or extend the live feed for a user. So normally it would be that you can only get it through line of sight, but with that feature, you'd be able to push that way further, basically relaying it from drone to drone, eventually to the user.
Okay, I think we might.
We want to use these drones for reconnaissance missions for the military. And another feature that we have. Sorry, what are you saying?
No, you go. You go.
Oh, another feature that we are trying to implement into it is making it 3D printable. So this way you can replace parts a lot easier than waiting long extended periods of time for replacements.
Okay, great. Thanks, Daniel. So the reason that this chart is important is because I call this the chart of managing expectations, right? And the reason is what you say about your business and service. I naturally, as an entrepreneur, every entrepreneur thinks that what they do is in the top right corner, right? The reason it's important to temper that is because where you place yourself on this box will set investors' expectations about the risk and return associated with what you do, right? So if you're going top right, what that says is, oh God, A, this is really risky, but B, the payoff could be huge. So that narrows your investor numbers, right? So if we look at what you're doing with, with drone innovation, so drones are operating, there are drones available. So there is an existing market of drones. So if we look along the bottom, we're kind of probably not far right. I would say we're probably in the middle, where you're not selling like, typical like a Predator drone or something. You're creating an incremental new product in the drone market, right? But you're probably in the top when it comes to product or service innovation, because actually, yes, drones exist, but when we're talking about mesh networks and 3D printable drones, that's pretty new. So you might be somewhere between those top two. So as an investor, what that says to me is, okay, it's an existing market, so my risk is lower, but it's a new innovation in that market, so there could still be a great return, right? So that should help us think about kind of what we're doing. What are your views, Daniel? Where would you put yourself?
I agree. I would definitely say within the middle. I'd say middle top, just like you said.
Yeah, great. And then let's stick with yours for an example. Another key question that entrepreneurs are asking, investors rather, are asking in these presentations is, why you and why now, right? And the explainer for that is often, why did your idea come into existence, right? Sometimes it is unexpected. So we've invested in businesses where the reason that business existed was an unexpected result of something else, like a bioadhesives business where the adhesive wasn't meant to dissolve, but it did. And as a result, it became a bioadhesive, right? Incongruity is where it's just something that just emerged as a kind of externality from research or something. Maybe the current way of doing things doesn't work. Maybe there's this new change in a market that means something's possible. So that one is really common in energy market. So energy innovations are usually in there. Could be demographics, could be a change in mood, so more sustainable businesses, or brand new knowledge that comes in. The reason you need to know where your idea came from is because you need to address it before you get asked the question. So for example, Daniel, if I ask you, why you? Where did your idea come from? Are you with us, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, my connection keeps going in and out.
No worries. So
why me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I served 4.5 years within a reconnaissance unit in the military, where I personally experienced firsthand these issues that the military is currently having. Between that and my background in computer engineering, I feel I'm a perfect fit to expand this market.
Great. See, that's a really, really unique value add. If I was trying to develop 3D printed reconnaissance drones and you were trying to develop 3D printed reconnaissance drones, you'd get the money, because that is a massive value add, right? To think about that from an investor's perspective, that is such a valuable thing that would go right at the start of your presentation. So when you're doing your elevator, you'd be like, hi, I'm Daniel. And just so you know, I served 4 years in the military and reconnaissance services, and I spotted that. And here's the pain point. All of a sudden, you've got credibility. The reason for the idea coming into existence is that credibility play. So let's move on. You've also got to know kind of what your strategy is with this, right? And when we talk about a strategy, we're talking about really what is your competitive advantage, because that's going to be the thing that has to come through in an elevator or a pitch, right? And if you look at the three circles at the bottom, you've got your objective of your business, the scope of your business, and the advantage, the competitive advantage. And along the top, this is where it kind of fits into your messaging. So you've got your mission. So your mission might be, I want to change the world. Your values might be, we're a family-based business, I don't know, whatever. Your vision might be, I want a computer on every desk. But your strategy might be, well, if we want to put a computer on every desk, we have to build a sales channel. We have to build, consistent hardware. It's the real brass tacks of how your business works. And you have to be able to articulate that clearly. So here's a really good example of that. So I deliberately picked quite a dry industry. So in this case, you know, investment management. And so this is from a company called Edward Jones. And their statement, so their key statements about their business is really simple. So again, let's go back to this: objective, scope, competitive advantage, right? So how they say it. The objective of this pitch, because don't forget, with any presentation, you're not going to give your story of your business between now and infinity. What you're saying is you're raising your, okay, let me rephrase. In any investor presentation, what you're effectively doing is telling a story between 2 points. Between, let's say, now and your Series A, might be now till your seed round. It might be that you're already running and you're wanting to exit. So that's the parameters. So your objective in this case would be to grow to 17,000 financial advisors by 2012. Well, why you? Because we offer a trusted and convenient face-to-face financial solution, and at the bottom, through a national network of our one financial advisor offices. And the scope, who do you sell to in this case? Conservative individual investors who delegate their financial decisions, right? So reading that is really clear what I'm doing, when, how, and why them, right? So what I'm going to do is just really, really quickly pick on one person and we can talk about it all together, right? So who have we not picked on? Clean. No, we've had Clean Electric already, haven't we? So I'm trying to, right. Does anybody want to volunteer? Because I can't see the full list of everyone here. Here we go. Got it. Right. So Nala from Hair. I can't see the second part of your company name, Nala. I can see Hair. So that could be Hair and You or Hair Epitome.
Hair Epitome.
Hair Epitome. Sorry. Are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Nala. Sorry for butchering your company name there. So tell us a little bit about your company, and let's see if we can create a strategy statement for you.
All right. So Hair Epitome is a hair growth serum. Is it loud? Can you hear me?
Just about.
Sorry. Hair Epitome is a hair growth serum made to make your hair longer and healthier.
Okay. So in this case, with any consumer product, one of the things you've got to do is make sure that within your elevator pitch and your main business pitch, you're managing expectations about your growth, right? So with something like this, rather than saying, you know, our objective is to become the world's #1 supplier of hair growth serums, you'd be saying, you know, it might be that we want to grow to 10,000 customers by year 2, for example, right? Now, Nala, what's your competitive advantage? Like, why would somebody use you?
So, Hair Epitome, we're using a special ingredient called C60, and basically no one else is using it. So the ingredient is a unique advantage because it increases hair growth by 16%, which is more than I could say forever.
And who's your core customer? Who is it? Who is your typical customer?
Anyone suffering from hair loss or thinning.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So for example, if we think about that strategy statement, which is kind of almost the foundation from which everything else is built, you'd be saying something like, you know, we want to grow to 10,000 customers by year 2 using our proprietary hair growth serum, which is targeted to those individuals who are already suffering hair loss and will be available through channel e-commerce resellers. So a statement like that, whilst it doesn't sound as like hype and sexy as sometimes the startup land would want you to, is really focused, and it tells people exactly what you want to get to with your business, right? The other big challenge in a lot of investor presentations is a complete overestimation of your market. So one of the most common things that I see in investor presentations is someone saying to me, McKinsey says this is a $2 trillion market. Well, that's tough. No one cares what McKinsey says because you are not going to get a $2 trillion annual revenue within the timescales of most presentations. So what you need to do is be really clear on the market you're going for. So in this case, I've just given you an example here for like a language learning app on smartphones, right? So the typical presentation might say there's 10 billion smartphone users out there. Well, kind of who cares? You know, how many of them are going to be your customers? Well, the total available market is non-English speaking smartphone users with Android phones, because it might be that your app is only available on Android and you're teaching people how to speak English, okay? That's a lot of people. So who are you gonna target, right? So then you've got your served available market, your SAM, which is your non-English speaking smartphone users with Android phones who want to learn English. So now we're getting really specific. And then your addressed market right at the bottom is the number of people who actually do download your app. The reason you need to do this is, this might feel counterintuitive, because what this means is you might be giving a smaller number than that massive big hype number that you were doing originally. But this makes your business more believable. This makes the investor know that you've done your homework and you know exactly which segment of which market you're going to. Most investors would rather you say, look, we know that there are 10,000 potential users in this particular city who we know will buy us. And then once we've captured that, we'll grow from there. That is far more valuable than saying there's 10 million potential users around the world and I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. That's not going to impress anybody, right? And then more than anything, it's this classic thing, probably my favorite TED talk ever, Simon Sinek, who created the Golden Circle model about business, right? The Golden Circle model tells you really why things exist, and it shows you how you should be communicating them. So let's think of a really classic example is Apple versus Samsung. And this tells you why this is really important. So with Apple, they started right in the middle. They started with the why. So Steve Jobs was kind of really into aesthetics and beauty and really into user interface. And so his whole deal was he wanted to make it really easy to use technology, and that technology could be beautiful, right? So that's the why. The how do we make technology beautiful? Well, it's got to be aesthetic, nice materials, clean user interfaces. And then the what at the end of it is the iPhone or the iPod or whatever, the product with features. Samsung, a lot of businesses like Samsung, Huawei, and other people work the other way. They start with the what, which is basically a feature set, like we need to make a phone with this number of features. How? Well, we're going to use ARM processors and do this. And they often don't have a why. The why gives you brand equity. The why gives you market capital, right? This is the reason why, even though Samsung sell more phones around the world, Apple is the one that captures the most revenue from the market because they really clearly understand the why, the why. So let me pick on someone we've not spoken to yet. Frinks. Is Frinks around?
Yes, we are.
Great. So first of all, just tell us really quickly about your product and let's collectively try and drill down to the why.
Sure. So at Frinks, we have created a deep tech platform that will help the food and hospitality industry increase their revenue and margins. We deploy AI and computer vision solutions to help them manage their operations and streamline their hygiene and safety compliance monitoring.
Cool. Okay. So where did this come from? Where did this idea come from?
Yeah. So we also started with why. So in the food and hospitality industry, 73% of the task that is still being done manually can very easily be automated. And that industry is predicted to be very easily taken over by robots and automation in the near future. So that was our trigger point. And actually that's the highest number across all the industries. Food and hospitality industry has the highest number of tasks which is being done manually, which can very easily be automated. This results in a very, this results.
Please carry on.
Yeah, so this results in non-optimal operational efficiencies, very slimmer profit margins, and they have a very high contamination risk.
Okay, but why? Why do this? Why bother? Why should I care?
Yeah. So that's one industry which is going to sustain for a very long time. It's growing at a very fast rate, and food is one thing that we all gonna eat for a very long time. And the trend changes, like the millennials, higher expenditure in the restaurants and other disposable items are increasing rapidly. So that industry has a very high potential of the growth, but they operate in a very crappy manner right now. They operate in a very crappy manner.
I'm going to pause you for 1 second, right?
Yeah.
We've just got to it, right? It's inefficient. This is one of the most inefficient industries in the world.
Yeah.
So a really good why is we want to make this industry more efficient.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't need to be any more detailed than that, right? We want to make this industry more efficient. Then the how. How do you make the industry more efficient? That's where we start to talk about, well, you should order at your table. You should be able to do some disinfection. You should be able to do this remotely. We should be able to use cloud products. And then the what at the end of it is Frinks, right?
Yeah.
But think about the difference in my approach to telling that story now. Like if I said, hi, I'm Aditya Agarwal. We've invented this technology which has got these, these terminals that sit on people's tables, and you can order there, but it's also really great because you can do this. And when you log in, it can do this. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm lost. I don't get it, right? But if you started out by saying, hi, I'm Aditya, and we're on a mission to make hospitality more efficient because it's one of the crappiest run industries in the world. And here's how we're going to do it. And we've created Frinks to allow us to do it, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're basically saying the same thing, but you're telling a much better story around it, right? So I'm going to just give the stage back to you for a moment, right? So imagine I'm asking you again. Imagine we've not met each other, and I'm asking you again to tell me about your business.
Hey Vikas, I'm Aditya. I'm the co-founder of Frinks. So did you know, Vikas, that food and hospitality industry does 73% of the tasks manually, which can be automated? That's one of the most inefficient industries you will ever come across.
Stop.
Okay.
The fact that they do 73% of the tasks manually, that's not really a good reason to live, is it? Right? Okay. Because like, what should it be? Should it be 72%? Is it only 1% off the optimal? Like, I don't know, right? Okay. Like, and this happens a lot, by the way, Aditya. I'm not picking on you, but a lot of people make this mistake where they'll be like, did you know that 61% of cats eat this product? And I'm like, is that good or bad? Should it be 62? Should it be 3? Like, who knows? Who cares, right?
Yeah.
So let's try that. So that's meaningless to me. It's not a good reason to live. So let's try again.
Okay.
Oh, hey man, how are you? Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, Vikas, thank you. So I'm Aditya. I'm the co-founder of Frinks. Did you know that food and hospitality industry is one of the most inefficient industry in the world?
Wow, did not know that.
Yeah, and this leads to very inefficient management, and they have a very slimmer profit margins, and they also have a very high risk of contamination. So that's a problem that we address at Frinks. And for that, we have built a suite of products which will help them drive increase in their revenues. We help them in their operations and in doing their real-time hygiene and risk assessment.
Great. See, all of a sudden, we're now telling a story, right?
Yeah.
You've got to think of it this way. As an entrepreneur, that question of why, that's your reason for living. That's got to be your reason to exist, right? So most of you may have heard of Virgin Atlantic. So Virgin Atlantic, Sir Richard Branson's business, that was the first big business that he made his real money in. And so I asked him about this, and I said, like, what was your why? And he was like, flying was boring. Why can't flying be fun? And I was like, okay. So the reason Virgin Atlantic was created, because he was like, well, flying should be fun. Like it should be glamorous again. It should be fun. Okay. So if we want to make flying fun, how do we do that? Well, you know, you use nice bright colors, cool music, you know, everything has a bit of fun and cheekiness to it. And, you know, back then when he started, times were different. So he was also saying, well, they needed very attractive cabin crew. All of this has to feel like a party. So those were the how. And then the what at the top was, and that's what created Virgin Atlantic, right? But that reason for living was flying should be fun again. So look, Aditya, I'm really pleased we got there with you. So let's, I think this is really important. So let's pick one more. Or does anybody want to volunteer?
Because like you explained why, how. I was saying because you explained why, how a Virgin Atlantic. Kindly explain the what little more clearly.
Yeah. So okay. So what is the really simple bit? The what is just your product. Is it a product or is it a service? So an example. So if your mission is to make flying fun, right? If you want to make flying fun again, there's no guarantee that that might be an airline, right? If you want to make flying fun, who knows? It might be that you create like some cocktail mixer that you take on a plane with you, right? Who knows? It just so happened that in this case, he wants to make flying fun. To do that, you need fun colors, great new planes, all this. And so the what, the product at the end of it in that case was an airline. It was Virgin Atlantic, right? So the what is almost the thing that is the end product or service that solves that why, that deep mission you want to address. So let's talk about yours. So yours is clean electric, right?
Yes.
So what's your why? Like, why do you exist?
So while studying in college, we built a lot of electric vehicles for a lot of competition. And when we see in India, so there is a lot of traction in two-wheeler and three-wheeler application in electric vehicle domain. But if you see the trucks, which are the most polluting thing on the roads, which consumes 150 liter of diesel a day, is not getting electrified. And there are a lot of challenges to it. And it is not like a two-wheeler you can charge at home. You need to build the charging infrastructure around it. So how do you develop a solution so that you can accelerate the electric trucks adoption in India by at least 5 years? So that is why we are doing and building electric trucks with charging infrastructure solution.
And that's your reason to live?
Yes, because if we don't do it, the electric trucks will, development will defer by 5 or 7 years.
And why does that matter?
We will wait for Tata and Mahindra to do it, but it will be too late.
But why does that matter?
Come again?
But why does that matter?
It matters to us because like we have spent our college days and our life in building electric vehicles, and if we don't do it, then who is going to do it for our country? So we have been
okay. You see, now we're getting to it, right? A why for you guys could be, look, India needs electric vehicles, right? That is a really good mission. That is a really good reason to exist. India needs electric vehicles. Pretty much everything you said then goes into a how. Okay, so let's use this. So the why, India needs electric. I wish I was in my lecture theatre, because then I could do a diagram for you. So India needs electric vehicles, right?
Correct.
How? Well, you could wait for Tata or Mahindra to do it, but it's going to take them time. So let's forget that. So how? Okay, well, you need charging infrastructure, you need chassis, you need engineering, all of the bits that you do. And then the what at the end of it is your truck, right?
Correct.
But it could be an alternative. It might not have been that. The why, India needs more electric vehicles. How? Well, maybe Tata and Mahindra were building them, but there was no charging infrastructure. So the what may have been that you made charging infrastructure. There's no guarantee it was a truck. In your case, it is. So let me try it again. Like, imagine I just met you and I was saying to you, right, Akash, hey, like tell me about your business. Tell me about you. How would you maybe phrase it differently, but really getting that mission across?
One thing is there, Vikas, which I want to point out before that, electric vehicles are inevitable and everybody is doing it. But the thing is, why we are doing it, because it is difficult to electrify trucks, and because it needs a massive charging infrastructure. And our background is, we are into the power industry of India, which is quite complicated. For 3 years, and in college we have been building trucks. So we are very well positioned to do the marriage of these two things. Otherwise, a lot of people are making electric
Let me ask you a question, Akash. Do you like trucks?
I like electric vehicles, in short.
Okay.
But while working on trucks, so I'm started loving it, and we are trying to solve this big problem. So we have started loving electric trucks, but we have been passionate about vehicles, electric vehicles.
So look, so actually, and this is a great point for all of you, that is actually a really valid why. A really valid why is, do you know what? I love electric vehicles and I've got to know trucks and I really love trucks. Like, a why could just be your passion. That's also just as valid, as long as it does create a real product or service at the end of it. So do all start having a think about that.
Hey, Vikas,
go on.
There's a good question from Sharik in California. So Sharik, take yourself off mic and ask it live.
Yeah.
I'm shy. I'm kidding. How often does the why boil down to letting customers save or earn more money?
It's very often. So the why could be, so, you know, Southwest Airlines or Ryanair, great examples of this, right? The why, flying should be cheap. How are we going to do that? Same planes, same engineering, no frills. What? And then the what at the end of it is Southwest Airlines or Ryanair. So very, very often, solving a really specific pain point, like something is too expensive or something could be or should be cheaper, is a very, very valid reason to exist. And some of the most successful businesses on the planet were anchored around that principle that something should be a lot cheaper than it is, right? So I think that's a really good mission. So which company was yours?
I'm from Avi.
Right. And I'm sure. Oh, so you're doing the smart music.
Correct.
For buildings, right? Okay,
yes.
Cool. So let's talk through yours. So what was the reason? I see you opened the door for yourself for this one. Now you're getting picked on.
Totally fine. I'm more than happy to give you my 1 minute pitch as well, if that's what you want.
Let's hear it.
You want it? Okay. It's not refined, but Ambi is the only in-store audio platform that lets businesses legally play licensed music in their stores free forever. We integrate with smart point-of-sale platforms and collect business data like transactions and inventory. We use this data for two things: to deliver in-store music and messaging that can lift sales 9%, and to deliver targeting advertising from brands into our network of stores. By building advertising pipelines from brands into stores, we can add an additional $3.2 billion worth of value into this industry, expecting a TAM of about $4.3 billion. My name is Sharik Shah. I've built music tech products at Gracenote, was the technical lead at NASA. I run the Startup Accelerator program at San Jose State University. As a company, we won 3 different startup competitions, graduated from Universal Music Group's Startup Accelerator program, launched product, gained early traction, and are now raising pre-seed. Our vision is to innovate an industry that is over a decade old with data and technology. We will help businesses cut costs during
Yeah. See, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm guessing you were very, very close to the end of your elevator. I was like
2 words away.
Right. But imagine your elevator was really impressive and I'm listening to it going, actually, wow, that sounds really cool. but now you've just been disqualified from a major business competition, right? That's why the practice is important. But I don't want to discourage you, because actually what you were saying there was really excellent. Can I just ask you, where did your idea come from? Like, what was the reason for your idea?
I've been building music tech products on my own for the past 3 to 4 years. The product was built for a very different reason. We iterated, we pivoted into a position where we found a way to add value into the market.
Yeah.
We were a music tech platform that let businesses, that let individuals listen to music together. And we repositioned ourselves multiple times into a platform that lets businesses legally play music in their stores and uses data and AI. So very different.
Yeah. Now, you see, it's really interesting because I think coming from the technology aspect first, so let me just skip back. So, you know, so what you're doing is kind of interesting, because if we think about the model, if we think about technology first, that typically starts at the kind of what, because, you know, the technology now enables this to happen, and then you end up with the product at the end of it. But listening to it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a clear market failure, which is most businesses play music, but most of the time it's illegal, right?
2%.
Yeah, so a great why is we want to stop people breaking the law when it comes to music, or we want to help people, you know, do the right thing or play music legally, you know. So think about it from that end user's perspective, because it's really interesting that as I was listening to what you were speaking, it was about halfway in when I'm like, bing, I get it. And if you really want to win at the kind of pitches, that bit should come first, right? And, you know, Paul's invested in a whole bunch of businesses over the years as well. And I'm sure it'll be the same for him, where the ones that you really do end up putting your money into are the ones where that entrepreneur gets that in really early. So it might just be that at the beginning you say something like, you know, did you know most people are listening to music illegally? And that needs to stop. You know, just a really powerful short statement about, oh gosh, I didn't realize that. You know, something like that is really powerful. I mean, does that answer your kind of previous question as well?
Totally.
Cool. Okay. Well, look, but like, you know, I think, you know, great question. And as we go along, if anyone does have more questions like that, either chime in on here, or if you put them in the chat, and then Amin or Paul will be able to bring them in, because when I'm in presenter mode, I can't see the chat window on here. So I want to just skip forward to a few common mistakes. So as you're preparing your pitches and your elevators and your presentations, right? A few really common mistakes, sometimes over planning. And what that means is it slows you down. And this is typically kind of you see this a bit more in European businesses, but a lot of the time people spend a massive amount of time planning and not enough time actually validating, because what will make or break your businesses is someone actually going to buy it, right? Or take your service on. So you need to kind of seek out the right evidence, but not just evidence that supports you. If you do find something which is kind of obvious and out there that might say something against what you're saying, confront it. It's the typical thing about competitors. One of the really common reasons businesses get Q&A to death in competitions is because they don't address a very obvious competitor. I'll give you a classic example of this. We looked at investing in an augmented reality travel app. And the principle of the app was really simple, which is you're traveling somewhere. Let's say you want to find your nearest ATM. You just hold up your phone, tells you where it is, and you can walk there. Time Out magazine had their own app, and it was really easy to find. The first time these guys went for a Series A, after they'd raised a bit of seed capital, the analyst for the meeting went, well, what about the Time Out app? You didn't even mention it in your deck, and it looks kind of similar. So all of a sudden, the credibility of that investor was gone, right? Because it didn't address an obvious competitor. So make sure, even if there is one, you address it. Tell a story, practice your pitch, speak to some customers, right? I'll give you another classic example of this. We looked at a really incredible business in Germany. And so right now, let's say if you break your ankle by accident, obviously, you'd have to have a metal plate fitted. And then once it's healed, the plate's removed. So there's 2 operations. Their innovation was they created a new type of bone screw, which actually absorbs and dissolves into your bone as your bone heals and grows. And so there's only 1 operation needed. It's much stronger, lower failure rate. Tested in the lab pretty well. But in their initial investor presentation, when they were going for their Series A, there was no validation. They didn't have much time before presentation day. So I said to them, just ring around as many doctors as you can and see if someone's prepared to give you a statement that says, yeah, well, we'd use that. They managed to get hold of a surgeon who took a 10-minute meeting with them and goes, yeah, if you guys made this, we'd probably use it. That was enough to get them over the line, right? Just something that validates you with your business. And so think about that. Like, Sharik did that really well when he said, we've already won these competitions. That's great. That validates what you've done. So always think about that, right? And then the next step along, and we're going to come to the elevator pitch in a moment, but you've got to also make sure that you put this into a really clear executive summary. And I always think about this as the foundation of raising money, right? So a really good executive summary, no more than 1 page, shouldn't take somebody more than 30 seconds or a minute to read. And it's got the grab, the problem, the solution, the opportunity, why you, the model, the team, the promise, and the ask, right? It's a lot of information, but you're just going to be covering the real core basics of it. So if we stick with Sharik for a minute, the grab, in that case, is most people are listening to music illegally. You're like, okay, wow. The problem, there's no real easy way for people to do this right now. The solution, which you've talked about, the opportunity, $3 billion market, your competitive advantage. Well, we've been in this game for a long time. We've made it. A little bit about your commercialization model. The team, well, that's anchored around you and your skill set. And then the promise and the ask is what we talked about earlier, which is, well, the promise might be by the end of year 1, we're going to be in 100,000 locations around the United States. And to do that, we need $500,000 of your money, right? So this is a really good structure for an executive summary. And before you really then build your elevator pitch, I would always say to people, get your executive summary really tight, because what you're going to then do is go through that summary and pick out the details that then go into your elevator. And then when we talk about the elevator, and I'm going to kind of come back to the task in a moment, actually. Well, when we think about an elevator, right, what I did was, so over the last kind of 9-10 years at the RICE competition, every year at RICE, 100 teams compete. They all do the elevator round. We did a little bit of a meta-analysis, I love that word, on who won, who didn't, the content of those pitches. We watched back the videos, and we found that this was a kind of really solid structure for a really good elevator pitch. So typically, the ones that did really well at RICE, at Mass Challenge, and other places start with an introduction, a bit of context so people know what's coming up, then the what you do, the opportunity, the why you, and then the deal, right? So if we stick with Sharik for a moment, you'd introduce yourself, and then, did you know this is the situation, what you do, as in here's our solution, how we do it, the opportunity, market size, why you, our proprietary technology, our protected algorithm, whatever it might be, and then the deal. So let's do a really quick run through, Sharik, if you will, with yours, with this structure, if that's okay.
Sure.
Right? And just think, key facts. Some of the best elevator pitches I've ever seen have only been like 40 seconds. It's completely fine, right? So I'll start my timer when you start talking, and then let's see where we get to. We're stepping through this format, right?
Hello there, my name is Sharik Shah. I'm the founder and CEO of Ambi. Did you know that 82% of businesses illegally stream unlicensed music in their stores through personal Spotify and Pandora accounts? Ambi is the only in-store audio platform that lets businesses legally play licensed music in their stores free forever. We are the only ones to integrate with smart point of sale platforms that collect business data like transactions and inventory to deliver music that increases sales and deliver targeted advertising for brands.
Great. 35 seconds. And how do you feel it? How do you feel that went versus your first elevator?
I feel like there was a little bit more emotion there.
Yeah,
and it was a lot less robotic.
Yeah. Let's get somebody else's feedback as well. So now everyone in the group's heard both. You've heard Sharik's first pitch and the second pitch. So does somebody else want to give some feedback on the difference between the two approaches? What about Prashant? I just saw your screen come up. Prashant from Thai Dubai.
Hi there. Yeah. So Sharik, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Sharik.
Yeah. So Sharik, the second pitch compared to the first one was much more concise. I mean, it tinged me a much earlier way than the previous one, if you want me to be honest. And although you had more emotion in the second one, the previous one, you were more, on the point on the recent one. Apart from that, I don't think I have anything else to tell you. It's great.
Yeah, I'd agree. And so Prashant, with your business, so your Solar Grid X, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, cool. So look, you've got the structure on your screen. So let's maybe hear yours as well. So let me just get my little timer. So I'll start timing when.
Just give me a second. I'm just going to close the door.
Okay. See, that's serious. When you have to go and close the door for an elevator, that's serious.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, my name is Prashant Konna, and I'm the COO of Solar Grid X. Did you know that renewables need to scale up by at least 6 times to reverse the effect of global warming?
Right. I'm just sorry. I'm just going to stop you for a moment. Slow down.
Okay.
Like slow. Right?
Okay.
It's really important because one of the most important things in presentations is whatever energy you're giving out is how the audience is going to feel, right? So all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, I don't know. Should I be taking notes? I don't know what to do. Right. So you need to slow down, right? Because you've got to sound like, basically, you need to sound like, I've got this. Yeah. It's all good, right? So let's start again. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, my name is Prashant Konda, and I'm the COO of Solar Grid X. Now, did you know that renewables need to scale up by at least 6 times to reverse the effects of global warming? And it's not coming from me, it's coming from UN. And so we started a cloud exchange platform where people can buy or sell assets that's based on solar. So this way, we have a token called SGX that represents the ownership of solar panel. So each solar cell is around $6. So when you invest in one token, you can earn up to 15% in returns of investment. This is a $120 billion market, and we aim to capture at least 320 million out of it. And currently, we have 7 letters of intent with commercial consumers, and we also have 350 plus early signups for investors back in the UAE region.
Okay. So 52 seconds, which is great timing. I'd say if you look, even by slowing down, like you were still 52 seconds. At your initial pace, it would have been like 8 seconds tops. Yeah. Right. So that's fine. Now let's get some feedback. So who have we not heard from? Sean. I don't think we've heard from you yet. Sean.
Radam at Portland State.
Hi there.
Oh, hi,
hello,
Sean.
everyone.
So you're over in Oregon, right?
That's correct.
Cool. So what did you think of the elevator there?
I really liked your well, I'll comment on what you said at the very beginning. Basically, how you start off is we're receiving any energy that's being put out in that presentation you're giving. So you were able to quickly adapt, and you were still able to go at a speed that's fast enough to present all your information, but it was able for us to adapt to that new environment that we're receiving from you. So, and having that speed dialed in allows me to actually grasp my attention or focus my attention on you, because I want to make sure I'm hearing all your key points that you're presenting. And you were pretty clear and concise on what you're trying to have the audience, you know, get from what you're trying to present, your startup. And I think you were able to target your product and how it's going to benefit your audience.
Let's be honest, did it hit you in the first few seconds or not?
I think it was pretty clear and concise at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Cool.
I think it was clear and concise. I think the thing that I would say is that there is, especially because so yours is based on tokenization, right? And that's really exciting. And you kind of said it almost as a bit of a throwaway a bit later on in your text, because one of the exciting things I think with SolarGrid is you're kind of unifying a number of really important trends, right? So you've got solar energy, which is growing at a fantastic pace. You've also got tokenization, which allows this to be, the investment in solar to be democratized in a way.
Correct.
And so you've got these this amazing convergence. So it might be something like, you know, hi, I'm Prashant. I'm the, you know, founder and CEO of SolarGrid X, and we're bringing together two of the fastest growing and most exciting industries in our world today, solar energy and tokenization. Because now all of a sudden, don't forget, you cannot assume that the viewer knows anything about your technologies. So you might think, well, it's obvious that these are growing, but if you didn't know, how would you know?
Market, the numbers.
So you'd be like, these are the two of the fastest growing industries in the world, and we're convening them around SolarGrid X. We allow solar panels to be tokenized to allow people to invest in solar panels and get a return on the energy that's being produced on those panels whenever there's daylight. This is a X billion-dollar market, and it's growing at a compound annual growth rate of X every single year. And our technology allows people to not only earn from their solar panels, but creates capital in the system to deploy more panels faster, creating a more sustainable future for all of us, right? Something
That's
like
awesome.
that maybe.
Yeah.
Because that last bit on yours, here's the thing, I didn't know you'd finished. I didn't know you'd stopped talking. I was still timing. I thought you'd just taken a pause for a minute. But I should know when you finished, right? So something like that, think of a finishing statement. Think of maybe, you know, a more sustainable future for all of us. Or it might be, we're here today to raise $2 million to create our minimum viable product and go to market in Dubai.
Correct.
Thank you for listening, right? Something to close it off. So if I may, Prashant, can we try yours again? So let's hear yours again and maybe step through it again.
Before that, could you give me a minute? Like, I'm just going to prepare this stuff, and then maybe you can loop on me back again. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. We'll come back to you then in a minute. So another way to think about this for everyone on the call is that your elevator and your final 10-minute pitch, and this is from the University of Dayton because they created a kind of really nice structure for this. So the pitch really needs to have a number of key elements through it, right? So the hook, that real grab at the beginning. And now you'll have to excuse it if some of this sounds a bit kind of salesy, but it is, right? Because this is an emotional thing. It might be that your aim is to go and sell to NASA, but you're still trying to capture the attention of that individual, because it's that individual that's going to open the door or write the check for you, right? So you need a hook. You need something that's going to get me interested straight at the beginning, right? So you remember I mentioned to you earlier on that we'd invested in a business called Medical Magnesium, who made those magnesium implants in bones that stopped you having to have a second operation. we were thinking like, what's the hook? Like, how can we get people to listen? Because it's actually quite a boring thing. So we got some celery. And at the beginning of the elevator pitch, it was like, it was the noise of celery. And the guy who owned the company was like, that's the sound of a bone breaking. And everyone was like, ah, God, like, you've got my attention. Now talk to me, right? So anything you can do as a hook to grab people's attention at the beginning of your pitch is really valuable, right? Then obviously we talk about your product service, your market, competition, really important if there's an obvious competitor. What I never want any of you ever in a presentation anywhere to say, we have no competition, because you almost certainly, no one has no competition. That's a lie, right? And also, I never, ever, 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 ever want any of you in any presentation ever to say, this company can't compete with us because they're too big or too slow, right? If you say that, that tells me you have no idea how corporate innovation works. Because if there's a big giant competitor over here, and if you think they're slow, the minute you start to grow, they'll copy you. If you've got a massive giant competitor over here, what you should be saying in your presentation is something like, well, hey, you know, this is obviously something Google would want to get into. So we're going to grow fast enough where they could be our obvious exit partner. Address it head on, right? Why are you different? How you make money? Why people should invest in you? And maybe a request for a follow-up. So that follow-up might be, and we'd love to take a meeting with you to tell you more about what we do, or we'd love for you to be, you know, one of our pilot customers, right? So Prashant, are you ready? Are you ready to go again?
So hi there, my name is Prashant and I'm the CEO of SolarGridX. And at SolarGridX, we are combining the two most emerging markets, which are solar and crowdfunding. Our platform allows you to invest in solar with just $6 in your pocket and get you a return of up to 15%, unbelievably 15%. Now, we're hitting a $120 billion industry and can capture up to $350 million out of this. Currently, we have around 7 LOIs from large-scale solar consumers and have around 350 plus early signups from investors around the world. And the reason why we need to do this right now, because renewables need to scale up by at least 6 times reverse the effect of global warming. This is coming from the UN. And our platform lets you achieve this market in a much, much rapid way. That's it from my time. Thank you.
Great. That was sharp. 53 seconds. Right. So who's going to give us some quick feedback on that? Let's pick Damgya. Damgya, sorry, I can't pronounce the name. It's really bad of me.
So I prefer the second one because in that I'll be telling about my company in a lot better ways.
Yeah. So this was really interesting because in that second one you did, Prashant, you know, it was like, wow, okay, it was really crisp why people should invest in you. Now, what one tip I would give is, see, what you're doing, Prashant, is not uncommon, where you're at an intersection. So you're bringing in investment, you're bringing in solar, you're bringing in tokenization, you're bringing in, you know, so many things. So I would always advise that you have a closing statement, even if it might be a bit cheesy, something to make people remember you, and as a great way of getting them to kind of just think, you know, to put it all together. So it might be something like, what have I written down here? So it might be something like, you know, with SolarGridX, you can save the planet, make money, and be part of a technological revolution. Something like that, because then people are like, okay, I get it. It's a unification play, right? So Damgya, which business is yours?
So I am from the team Frinks.
Oh, so you're from Frinks as well? Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so look, we've heard from Frinks already. So what I'm going to do is we'll probably come back to you then once we go into the breakout. So I'm conscious that I've been talking for a little while. I want to make sure we get into that, right? But before we do, here are some of the phrases that I never, ever, 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 ever want you to use in an elevator or in a main pitch. Our projections are conservative. Well, why? Why? That's not exciting. McKinsey forecasts our market will be 50 billion by whenever. No one cares. Somebody's going to sign a deal next week. If they're going to sign a big deal with you next week, why do you need my money? Or if you do, you'd better bring a letter of intent with you. People are set to join us as soon as we get funded. If you say that, you'd better have evidence with you if that's going to happen, right? No one is doing what we're doing. Lies. No one can do what we're doing. Lies. Hurry up because other VCs are interested. Go and speak to them then. Why are you wasting my time? Big company is too big, dumb, or slow to be a threat. Not true. I've seen plenty of startups get killed by big, dumb companies. We've got a proven management team. Well, why are you here then, right? Patents make our product defensible. No. Here's the big secret about patents. A patent is only worth what somebody's going to pay for it, right? I could patent doing this with a bit of paper, but it's pointless because it has no value, right? But I could still patent it. So a patent is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it or the real intrinsic value of what it's defending. So only use intellectual property if it's actually defending something useful, right? So what I'm going to do now is I want you to get into your break. Oh, wrong way. I'm going to go back. We're going to pop you into breakout rooms, right? I'm going to give you, let's call it 10 minutes, right? Maximum. As you know, let's be tight here, right? Let's give you 5 minutes in your breakout room. I want you to pick one of the businesses in the breakout room, or you can work on your own. I want you to really refine your elevator pitch from what we've talked about so far today, right? I'm going to leave you in your rooms for 5 minutes. So I'm not going to come around and hassle you in your rooms. And then when you come back, we're going to get volunteers to come and talk about it. So pick one person in each room to be your spokesperson, because that's the person that's going to come back and deliver, right? So I'm hoping you managed to get some collaboration done in your breakout. So just to let you know what we're going to do now, I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers to come and just give those elevators back that you've been working on. And then I'm then going to really quickly run through a couple of quick things on elevators. I'm going to play a couple of elevators for you from past competitions. And then I'm going to jump into how you structure that 10-minute pitch and how you get prepared for a Q&A at the end. And then we'll draw it to a close and then do any questions that you have at the end. So that's how we're going to run the rest of the session. So let's jump straight in. Who's gonna, I'm going to just load up my little timer. Who's going to volunteer?
I'll go.
Daniel? Right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to start the timer when you start speaking, and then I'll call time at 60 seconds, right?
All right. Sounds good.
Whenever you're ready. Stage is yours.
All right. So hi, my name is Daniel Salib, military veteran and founder of Volant. Did you know that the U.S. military is currently in the process of modernizing its forces through mass integration of technologies such as quadcopters? This is being done to compete on the battlefield of the 21st century with adversaries such as China. We're producing an affordable sum of small autonomous drones that can be operated by a single member, implemented at the company level to assist personnel where they will perform the critical tasks of reconnaissance missions. This is a $16 million market that is growing at a 20% compound annual growth rate. The uniqueness of our platform lies within our drones' ability to extend the distance which they are able to communicate with the user. This is done by passing data between drones through a secure mesh network, and with Volant's ability to respond swiftly and dynamically, and through innovative ideas not yet capitalized by competitors, we plan to enter the market and enhance the capabilities of armed forces. Thank you.
Great. Excellent content. 52 seconds. So you're well in time. My only feedback would be slow down, because I think your content was excellent and what you're doing is really cool. I think just slow down what you're saying, because don't forget, you know it, right? So here's the other thing, which I think is a really important point for everyone. You know your business. It's your business. I don't know your business, so I'm trying to connect the dots as you're going along. And ideally, don't make that hard for the listener. And I think there's some really important stuff in your elevator. So all I would suggest you do is, your content was excellent. So, great job with that. You've got 8 seconds to play with, which is quite a long time in presentation land. So just slow that down a bit, but otherwise really, really good job, Daniel. So who's next? Who's going to come up next?
$165 billion. That is how much money the trucking industry spends on fuel every year, and it's one of their largest expenses. One of the main contributors to this cost is rear aerodynamic drag. However, few companies have attempted to address this region, and arguably none have done so effectively. That is today. I'm Victoria, co-founder of Aerodyne Technologies, and together with my team, we have set out to tackle this problem by designing the most aerodynamic trucking attachment that money can buy. Existing products offer little aerodynamic efficiencies, they rely too heavily on driver interaction, and they don't give fleet owners visibility to show their aerodynamic improvements. In contrast, our product, FreightFin, is expected to save trucking companies $3,000 per truck per year with a ROI of about 10 months. It is completely independent of truck drivers as it deploys and retracts on its own.
Time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. Yeah. So do you know what's really
short.
interesting? Yeah, 60 seconds isn't long. And if we skip back, your content was excellent. Your pace of speaking was excellent. One comment I would make is when you talk about rear aerodynamic drag at the beginning, if you don't know what it is, you'd be like, what the hell is that? Why should I care, right? But the really interesting thing is, the great thing about your product is you've got a great visual that you can play on. You can say something like, think about it. A truck is a box. It's not a very aerodynamic shape, and it's not a shape that's changed for years. That's why they're inefficient. So bring in a visual, maybe so I can go, oh, okay, I get it, right? But think about
when
it.
we do go ahead.
Good, you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, when we say that part, the rear aerodynamic drag part, we have a slide that shows all of the turbulence like behind the back of the trailer. And that's kind of like what we're using to show like why it's so inefficient.
Okay, so in a lot of competitions, in fact, in the vast majority of competitions that I've been involved in, the elevator pitch will not allow a slide deck. So most elevator pitches in competitions, what you'll have behind you is literally just like your team name or logo, and then you're just speaking, right? So let's think about what you said there. What do you think you said there, which was not as important? I don't know if anybody else was listening and wants to come in. What do you think was said there, which maybe we can cut out?
So instead of spending too much time on the problem, if you could describe the problem in a very nutshell, and then you can come to the customer whom you are targeting your product and how they are able to get the benefits. That is what matters. Who are the customer and how they are going to benefit. That will be great.
Great. Yeah, really good point. So for example, I've just scribbled some notes. So you might start with something like, I love the number at the beginning. I think that's really brings it to life, right? So maybe you start with something like, 157 billion, wasn't it?
165 billion.
Yeah, it's like one Bezos, basically, isn't it? Right. So like $165 billion. That's how much the trucking industry spends on fuel. And 10% of that is wasted because trucks are boxes and they're not very aerodynamic. Hi, I'm Victoria from Aerodyne, and we're here to, so that's probably saved you like 10 seconds. Right?
Okay.
So what I'll do is, I'm going to leave that with you for a minute. We're going to bring in somebody else, but then I want to come back to you to see if you can do another one for us, if that's okay. Yeah? Cool. So who wants to come in next?
I'll go.
Yeah, Omar. So we've not heard, I don't think we've heard from you yet. So your team is from Oregon. Oh yes, I think we have you spoken before? No, we haven't. Cool. Welcome.
Yes. Thank
you. Omar, let me just get my timer ready. Okay, I will go whenever you start speaking.
Sounds good. So I'm Omar Wakid from Radom. Imagine you're commuting to an important event and you spend 30 minutes looking for parking, ultimately resulting in you being late for that event. On average, people spend over 8 minutes looking for parking per trip. We produce hardware and software for parking providers to manage and facilitate the parking, but also software for commuters to be directed to parking without needing to look for it. This is a $10.6 billion in the United States, and we seek to enter this market through small-scale pilots in our city, Portland, Oregon, starting with our university, Portland State University, and then scaling to other parking structures, hopefully building up our network of commuters and parking providers and providing meaningful data to both parties.
Okay, cool. So 50 seconds. I didn't know you'd finished. Right? I was like watching the timer, and then there was an uncomfortable 4 seconds when I was like, oh, okay, stop. So think about that. Like, you've got to make sure that your close, like, it's got to grab you like, shit, like, here's some, sorry, you've got to be like, here's my business card, come and call me, right? Like, you've got to make sure you close with something in a pitch. Like, even if you're not raising money, which is fine, you might be like, and here's what we're going to do, right? I think your content was good. One thing I would say is up your energy levels when you're talking.
Right.
Sorry, I think there's somebody else coming. Was it Smiley? Did you have a comment there? Okay, I thought somebody else was coming in there. But yeah, up your energy levels. So maybe look.
I just rejoined the meeting. Actually, I got disconnected. I'm sorry.
No problem. So, Omar, if I may, I'd like you to just maybe do that again, but just up the energy levels a little bit. So as you're talking, just really, you know, if you're not passionate about it, no one's going to be passionate about investing. So let me reset. So I'll start timing when you're timing. So think about that, up your energy levels, and just conclude well. So we know that you've come to the end of your pitch, yeah?
Sure thing. Okay. I'm Omar Wakid, founder and CEO of Radom. Did you know on average people spend 8 minutes looking for parking per trip? That results in over 17 hours spent per commuter annually. Radom seeks to solve this solution by providing hardware and software to parking providers, helping them manage and facilitate their parking. Also, we provide software to commuters to help guide them to parking efficiently. There's a $10.6 billion industry in the United States, and we seek to enter this market through small-scale pilots with Portland State University, and then scaling locally. We wish to build this network of commuters and parking providers to provide meaningful insights to all commuters across the world. We will start through small-scale pilots in Portland, and then scale through the West Coast, and then ultimately the United States, seeking to make an impact in reducing that 30% carbon emissions produced through parking and 20% congestion.
Yeah. Okay, look, better energy, much better energy there. And again, just one little tip for all of you, right? And it's really common, right? When I've had to do pitches before, I've done the same. When you're rehearsing your pitch over and over again, or you've got your notes, sometimes when you're reading it, you know, your brain's on this bit, but your eyes are on this bit, and you kind of get confused, and you're like, and that's normal. But here's the thing, apart from you, no one knows what you're about to say. So if you get lost a little bit, you've just got to keep going and style it out, because no one else knows what you're going to say. So no one knows if you've made a mistake. No one knows if you've missed something, but it keeps the pace, right? But no, but really pleased what you did there, Omar. Victoria, do you want to come back and try one more? And then after Victoria, we'll do one more, and then we'll move on.
Okay, I wasn't able to practice it though, so I'm not sure.
Don't worry,
how
we're all friends. No one's gonna judge.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Yep.
$165 billion. That's how much money the trucking industry spends on fuel every year. And 10% of that is wasted because trailers are essentially boxes on the road and are very inefficient. Hi, I'm Victoria, co-founder of Aerodyne, and together with my team, we have set out to save trucking companies money by developing an aerodynamic tractor-trailer accessory that addresses 3 key issues in the market. Existing solutions offer minimal cost savings, rely too heavily on driver interaction, and don't give fleet owners visibility. In contrast, our product is expected to save trucking companies 6% of fuel costs. They're completely independent of truck drivers as they deploy and retract on its own, and it uses tracking technology, which gives fleet owners its current location at any given time. However, our product did not get here on its own. It took a group of passionate individuals with skills in automotive engineering, supply chain logistics. Okay. I was 1 sentence away.
Right, exactly. Okay. But really good. Does anybody want to quickly give Victoria some feedback before we move on to the next person? Anybody want to give some feedback on the difference between the two?
Yeah. I really liked your enthusiasm in both pitches. I think the second one was a little more cleaned up. I think it's really good the way you like delivered it and everything. It's really like it really like draws you in.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To add on what Daniel said, I agree. But I was gonna say, you give a lot of like detail from a focal point rather than like a 30,000 foot view. I think
great feedback.
You could use more of your time maybe in other critical aspects. Kind of what Vikas was saying. How much value are you adding per each bullet point you're talking about? Going into so much detail versus maybe from an investor perspective, we just want like more of your time towards the overview, but kind of balancing, that elevator pitch versus, a regular pitch. But overall, the energy is there, the content's there, really good pitch.
Yeah, I'd agree. And actually, one thing that you did really well, Victoria, and I'm going to just quickly cover off body language when we come back to the slides. But even though we're on Zoom, you were doing really well. You were being expressive. You were using your hands. Because on video conferencing, it's really common that, oh yeah, I frame my head well, so I'm just going to stand still and talk, and that's fine. And I'm just going to carry on like this. And it's just kind of like second nature. We all do that. But this is theater, so we keep going. Right, so let's do one more, and then we'll come back to the slide. So who wants to?
We will do it. So, shall we start?
You go.
So, hello everybody. We are Team Clean Electric, a bunch of automobile enthusiasts who have been developing electric vehicles since college days. As we all know, India is a very polluted country, and 50% of the total cost is the fuel cost for a fleet operator, and we are a power surplus nation, so we want to cut down on our import to have energy security in the country. So we aim to focus on the commercial vehicle light duty trucks because it is causing most of the pollution, and we aim to build electric trucks which could be powered by renewable energy, and we aim to save 30% of the fleet operator cost, and we need around $1 million to get the ARAI certification and the initial 20 trucks on road. And that's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. 54 seconds, right? And I think so your timing was good. Your pace is good. I actually really liked your opening, because your opening instantly validated why you're doing this and why you're interested. You're automobile enthusiast. I think let me just check the chat. So a comment from Sharik. Instead of saying India is a very polluted country, Sharik suggests, can you share a metric talking about the carbon footprint of India? That's a really good point, actually. So instead of using a negative and saying India is really polluted, you could say, did you know that India has X, and just pull out a fact which says that without it being a negative. And Sharik's also said
the pollution is traced back to vehicles, and that
great. See that's a great fact. So instead of saying India is a very polluted country, you could just say 70% of India's air pollution can be traced back to commercial vehicles. Simple, right? So something like that. I agree, Sharik. Really good point there. Keep the language positive. and keep it upbeat. So, but I think you did a really, really good job there. So let me get my slides, share PowerPoint.
While you're pulling that up, Vikas, I can just mention, we're trying to get 2 or 3 pitches recorded that they may use in Tycon, Silicon Valley. So any teams that can stay on after, do a 1-minute pitch, I'd love to record it after the end of this workshop today. Just put your name and interest level in chat.
Cool. So listen, we're over the hard bit. And so now what I'm going to do is just quickly cover off the importance of body language. So and then we're going to just go through the 10-minute pitch structure. So look, this is a real killer point, and it's a point which a lot of people get really wrong when you're doing elevator pitches. Really commonly, you see people pitching with their hand in their pocket, or they might be kind of swaying a little bit, or they're kind of like tics, and they don't help you when you're presenting because it communicates nervousness. You have to watch yourself back. No one likes doing it. No one, right? So you have to video yourself pitching, watch it back. Video yourself pitching, watch it back. Because here's the thing, like if I was pitching and Paul said to me, Vikas, you always have your hand in your pocket. Like, what's up with that? That's not going to change it. What will change it is me watching it back, seeing myself doing it, meaning that my mirror neurons in my brain fire up, and then I actually physically stop doing it, right? Because these are the things which can actually cost you a pitch sometimes, is you might just not appear confident. So you've got to maintain, you know, in the real world, good eye contact, you know, watch your posture really well, you know, command your space well. But in the Zoom environment, things are even more different, right? Because in Zoom, I can't really see you. All I can see is your camera pictures. I don't know where you are. There's some virtual backgrounds. Who knows, right? So on a Zoom environment, right, make sure that you're framing, like where I am now, a little further away from the camera, means I've got room to move, right? So make sure that you've got room to be expressive. And make sure that when you are talking on Zoom, like it's a bit different now because I've got my notes, because we're running a session. But if I was doing an elevator pitch on Zoom, I need to look at you in your eyes. So you need to look dead into the camera, right? Because that makes it really connect with the viewer. So like, for example, if I'm selling you these water bottles, right? It might be, did you know that water bottles make water 100% tastier? I'm Vikas, I'm the CEO of Pink Water Bottles, and I'm here today to raise $1 million of your money to invest in production for these amazing products, which are already on sale here in the United Kingdom, right? So all of a sudden, I'm expressive, I've got the right distance, you can look into my eyes because I'm looking dead into the camera, and so you're commanding attention even virtually, right? So watch that and practice it, because at least for the next few months, any competitions you do is going to be virtual, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of the, 1 or 2 of the best pictures that I've seen. We were practicing this in the break, so I'm hoping this works, right? This. Okay, so you should all now be able to see the video, right?
Yes.
Cool. So this is Synode Systems, who competed at the Rice Business Plan competition. And I still think this is like the benchmark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this for you. Hopefully the audio works. And then once I've played it, I want to do a quick reflection as a group on what you think worked, what you think didn't work, and then we'll move on.
Hi, everyone.
Can you hear that? Did you hear that? Good. Right. I'm going to wind it back and start again. Right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samir Mayakar, and I'm a co-founder of Synode Systems. We're out of Northwestern University. Now, let me see a show of hands. How many people here have some form of smartphone or tablet? Awesome. Well, if your device is anything like mine, it tends to die at the worst possible moments. Days like today, when you're on the go and traveling, like many of us were. Well, our team has patented and developed a solution to this technology. We make anodes for lithium-ion batteries, and they'll let this phone last 10 times as long and charge in just 10 minutes. In fact, we've released our first prototype. We received $200,000 of funding to optimize this prototype, and it surpasses the performance of our competitors. We're excited to be here at Rice today because we want to take this prototype and expand it to put it into a phone. Thank you so much, and remember, with Synode inside, you will always have a charge.
Right. What do you think? Let's get some feedback from all of you. What did you think of that?
I like how he had like props pretty much like while he was giving his pitch. So it gave you like a nice visual as well.
Yeah, I agree. That was a really good
lot
shout.
of body language.
It was very engaging as well.
Yeah. And did you
He
notice
warmed
the
up
speaking?
the audience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He warmed up the audience. But did you notice the pace, right? He was speaking slightly slower than normal conversation pace. So we were coaching them before the competition. And actually, if you speak slightly slower than normal conversation pace, you really get people's attention. Because subconsciously, that's what we do to say something really important. So it meant I had to cut some of his presentation out, but it was slightly slower. And did you notice there was nothing really technical in there? There was nothing really complicated in there. He just kept it simple and really focused on the goal, right? So let me do one more with you. I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick this one because this is a consumer business. So it's a different industry, okay? Right.
Hi, I'm Shiraz, co-founder and marketing director at Caffeination. We launched January 2013 with our innovative new product, Ups Solid Energy, our highly caffeinated and vitamin-enriched energy gummies, which allow you to control the energy boost through the number of gummies you eat. Whether you need it quick or a sustained boost through the day, now you can with Ups. We target students, festival goers, office workers, people on the go, and we're offering you a fantastic investment opportunity. The global energy drinks market is $37 billion and is predicted to double in 5 years. Our recipe is protected and we have a European-wide trademark. We proved the concept in Manchester. We sold over 5,000 bags to students there, and now we're expanding to the rest of the UK, Europe, and North America. And this summer, we're going to be seen in 7 of the biggest European music festivals. We're looking for $700,000 investment to increase our sales and distribution channels and hit our target of $25 million revenue in 5 years. We're creating a revolution in solid energy. Forget the lows, it's time to get high.
Right, what do you think?
That was my favorite one so far because
Yeah,
I really liked all of his metrics. Like it was really clear what they've done so far, where they're going, what their market penetration potential is, what their target market is. It was a lot of information condensed into 1 minute.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I like how he presented. Oh, go ahead, Aditya.
Yeah, sure.
Aditya, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Sean, please
go ahead. Yeah. This is why we're all too polite.
Yeah, I was just going to say he presented exactly what his ask was, and he lowered his terminology so everyone in the audience could understand, either the business people, technology people, or just the community. And then we know exactly what he's going to do with that money. He forecasted it out for what the return is going to look like, so investors don't have any question.
Yeah. And then Aditya, you had a point as well.
Yeah, his energy was really very high, just like his product.
Exactly, right? And this is so we were coaching him before the presentation. Now, you won't believe this. He had a real fear of speaking. So even in a room with like 9 or 10 people, he wasn't able to do the elevator pitch at all. And he kept climbing up like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. So we were really proud of when he actually got through it. And you might have picked up in the middle, he stopped for a second. And that's when, you know, that reality kicks in. No one else knows what I'm going to say. So you carry on. Also, you're quite right to identify there's a lot of metrics in there. And the reason for that is consumer markets are really hard. You're up against massive players like Coca-Cola and Unilever. And so when you've got an obvious challenge like that, back it up as much as you can, because that means that at the end of it, the investors are like, okay, that's cool, they've got this. So always put yourself in the mind of the viewer. So those videos are already in the Google Drive. So there's a couple more in there. So feel free to watch those back and use those as a reference. So let me come back to my slides. Cool, okay. So, yoink. So the 10-minute presentation is then the next gatekeeper that you'll typically come across. Make sure that, you know, what you are presenting typically is commercially confidential. So feel free to mark it as confidential and proprietary. I think sometimes that's important, especially if you're distributing it. Always put references in. If you're going to reference any data, so for example, it might be a survey. How many people were in the survey? When was it done? Put those references in and use believable claims because of that, right? If you've got a demo of your product or a video, test it, test it, test it. Like, the last thing you want is to run a video and the presentation machine's too slow, right? Make sure that it's not just an idea. Even if all the traction you have is an email from someone saying, yeah, I'd buy it, use it, because a lack of traction is a killer, right? And also have a soundbite, make sure you've got consistent fonts, color, and in most competitions, there'll be a handover between presenters. So in most competitions, let's say there's 3 of you in your team, there's an expectation that all of you will present. So practice your handover. So I might say, and now I'm going to hand over to Paul, who's going to run you through the finances. And then Paul might say, thanks, Vikas. And then at the end, he'll be, and now I'm going to hand back to Vikas to take you through this. It's got to feel really smooth, because that makes the investor realize that your team has got a good connection, right? Don't make this deck too long. Don't make the slides too wordy. Don't make them too complex. Don't use a lot of jargon and abbreviations and things like that. And you've got to make sure it looks sharp, right? A really good tip for you is, if you're not good at graphic design, go on to upwork.com, upwork.com, and for $50, you can get a professional graphic designer to make your deck look amazing, right? Because that really counts. So a really good structure for you is this, and I call this the kind of killer structure because I think this just covers most things you need. So I'm going to walk through it quickly. A title page, because that's what people are going to see when they walk in, maybe with a picture of your product, maybe something so they can start to think about what you're doing. Your mission and overview, who you are, the problem and solution, your value prop, which is critical, the market opportunity, product service, who are your customers, who are you going to sell through? Is there any technology? Is there any intellectual property? Now, with IP, it doesn't just have to be a patent, right? Your intellectual property could be a black box. It could be our proprietary algorithm, our secret formula, or it could be your brand, right? So there is lots of different things that can form IP. Who are your competition? Address it head on, like we said. What's your traction? What validation have you got? How are you going to make money, right? How are you going to market? Show me some financials, basics, you know, break even, returns. What do you need from me? And then a closing slide. Now, what I then would always advise you to do is, in your groups, think about what are the most likely questions that we're going to get asked. And there's 2 ways of doing this. Either do this as a brainstorm in groups, or find some friendly investors or some advisors to say, excuse me, what are the most common questions we're going to get asked? And for each of those most common questions, have a backup slide, right? So in the example that I've got here, you know, I've thought about, okay, so maybe someone's going to ask to see cash flows. Maybe they're going to say, well, who are your current investors? Tell me more about your intellectual property. Show me your product. What are your risks? And in that situation, what you need to do is have a backup slide. So if, let's say, let's say I'm pitching to Paul for like, $1 billion for my water bottle business. And Paul might say, I need some more detail on your intellectual property, Vikas. And I would go straight to that slide. That's where my detail is, and go, well, great question, Paul. Slide 6. Here's our patent filings. Here's our protections. Here's this. And then another judge or investor might say, well, what are your risks? Great question. Jump straight to that backup slide, right? There's no consistent answers for this. There's no standard questions you're going to get asked, apart from things like IP and validation. They come up time and time again. But you have to think about this in your groups. What are the questions that we are most likely going to be asked? And how do we address those quickly in a backup slide? Because that shows that you are prepared, right? So before we finish, I showed you before, whoops, hang on, my screen's gone. Right, back with you. I showed you before the elevator pitch from Synode Systems. So Synode Systems were out of Northwestern University. They are a high technology business, a university spin out, very risky area, a lot of capital needed. So I'm going to walk you through their actual presentation. So in their presentation, they talked straight in about the differences in technology and how technology is moving really really quickly rather. How the headwinds are helping, how the tailwinds are helping them with semiconductor growth, battery capacity being needed. They then talk through the high level stuff about the technology, because actually if I'm investing, I need to understand roughly what they do. So they talked about, So they talked about how batteries work, and they went straight into the fact that they are making best-in-class anodes, why theirs is more stable, why it's faster, and what their product does. Then a bit more technical detail, the high-level stuff, the stuff that you need to know, right? And a great mental experiment is think about what are the basic things you need to know to understand something. And that's what they're cycling through. But in each slide, they're not just explaining it. So if we look at the one where it says our patent pending solution, they're not just explaining what that is, they're explaining why it's important, right? So not just what it is, why it's important. What their patent covers, how much it costs, how it fits into manufacturing, their competition. And don't forget, right? They're a startup. They are a brand new company at this point, and their competitors include people like 3M, right? So they're not hiding from it, they're addressing it head on. Why theirs is better, who is their potential first customer, and then in the bottom right here, so each of these squares, by the way, is a slide, right? I've just grouped them together. And in the bottom right, this is a chart that all of you should have in your presentations, which is your milestones and funding needs. So this shows where am I on the journey, what's the money that I need and when, and then what do I need next, right? Very commonly in these 10-minute presentations, a key thing that's missing is the what next, right? Like I give you $500,000 for your business to help you get to your first MVP, but then what? Like, what happens then? So address that. Who's the team? And so each of these again is a slide. So these are their advisors, their technical team. The bottom right slide is the one that I want you to focus on. So the bottom right slide, which they've called their operations team, this is the founding team in essence. And instead of listing it in bullet points, what they've done really smartly is just put the logos of the places they've worked, right? So Samir was in the communications team at the White House. He's worked at Boeing. He worked at, he worked at Credit Suisse. And the fact is, right, all of you on this call today will have, impressive companies behind you. You'll have great logos you can put on, and it reassures the investor that you are people who can get this up and running. I would also strongly encourage you to find advisors, find people that you can bring on to your journey with you. And then right at the end, a bit of a reality with the prototype and their closing message, right? So that's a great slide deck. Now, I'm not going to go through the next one because I'm conscious of time, but there's another slide deck in here as well for Adhesys, which we invested in as well, another technical one, which you can go through. So, conscious of time, I'm going to conclude the slides there and just open out for any quick questions you may have. And then I know Paul wants to say a few closing notes as well. So just first of all, any questions?
And so take the must-have questions, and then we'll close the official workshop and then reopen it up for anybody who wants to stay for chat. So.
Yeah, Vikas, I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a 10-minute pitch, you talked about building the credibility and telling the story. I wanted to know more about what kind of categories the story is being divided into. So like there are kind of story that I got coronavirus, so I developed a vaccine. So which is very directly related to me. There is something like though I'm not directly related to it, but I found this fun fact, so I started this company. So you can categorize a story in multiple aspects of it. Could you please throw some light in those categories and what investor look in?
So the answer is you need to just test it out with people, right? There's no right or wrong way to tell the story of your business. What you need to do is try telling the story of your business in different ways, and just even if it's just with your friends, just say, hey, look, can I just try this on you? Which of these grabbed your attention more? Right? Because don't forget, right, that the biggest challenge is your business. So what really excites you might not excite somebody else. So what you need to do is just try it and just say to people, hey, look, let me try it this way. And you might say, did you know in restaurants are really inefficient and blah, blah, blah. And then you might try a different way and say, hey, I'm just really excited about this technology and I never knew about it. And then I found this. And then you might try another one. And then you might just find overwhelmingly people say, go down that path. That path is the really engaging one. So trial and error is important. You need to test this out with people. You can't just do it in a silo. You don't have to test it out with investors. You can just test it out with people but that's the best way to approach it.
Okay, thank you.
Let's take one last formal question, and if you want to do any closing remarks, Vikas. And then we'll open it up I'll do a couple of things, and then we'll have informal chat and general questions.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Hi. Yeah. We can hear you, Pramod.
Yeah. So Vikas, my question is, we have a product and a service in our company. So just like how we saw a few presentations happening like in the video that you played in this forum, can we also bring a product and give a demonstration for like 10 to 15 seconds in the elevator pitch or in the 10-minute pitch? What do you prefer?
So if you've got a product and you can demo the product, that's a real winner, right? Like we had a team that we took to Rice who they basically had a 3D printed shell for a robot that they were making. I'm like, bring it. Like, it's better than holding up nothing. So if you've got something, show it. If you've got a video, put it into your presentation. Like I said, a lot of elevator pitches won't allow you to have slides, but if you've got a prop, bring something, right? Because it brings it to life and it shows it's real. So, so I would always encourage you to do that in a way that's simple and quick. So don't spend too long on it unless you really, really have to. So with the example of WCB Robotics, the actual robot prototype was kind of complicated and sort of didn't work initially. So they just brought the 3D printed shell of the robot and said, look, we're already working on the 3D printing to make it, aerodynamic. Cool. Shows it's real. So there is a big advantage to having that, right? Or it might just be that you have an app that you're running and you just have a screenshot and go, look, we've already got our app. It doesn't matter, right? So yeah, it makes it real. So if you can do it, do it.
So basically to sum up, in elevator pitch, we can have a prop along with us, but in the 10-minute video pitch, we can have the video along with the 10-minute video pitch, right? That's what you're intending right now, right?
Yes. If you have a video, my advice to you is don't stop talking and play a video, right? The best way to use a video in a pitch is the video has, unless you really need to, if the video has no sound, so imagine that I've got your video playing behind me now, right? And I'd be saying, I'm going to show you now a video about was it Last Ripple? Yeah. So I'm going to show you a video about our Last Ripple product. And as you can see, this is what's happening. And then this is what's happening. And now this happens. And let me tell you about this bit, right? So even whilst the video is playing, you're doing the narration because you're in the room. Otherwise, it's just lazy. So you should make sure that you're still narrating and talking through the video if you use a video. But yeah, if you can do a video, great. With the robotics company, they had a video of their robot clinging to the ceiling using suction. And they were just talking over it and saying, as you can see, our robot's doing this and here's how it's doing it.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Cool.
Because I have one question. So can you tell me how important is story and what amount of time in a 10-minute speech we should dedicate to a story? And the other follow-up question with this is that what exactly should be the content of story? Should it be like how I started building this product, like how I had got the idea and then I'm developed this product and now I'm with it? Like, should it be a journey or what?
So the best way to think about the story is the pitch is a story, right? Your pitch isn't, it's not like a story then a pitch. The whole pitch is a story, right? So you're trying to, it's like a really good example is, imagine you're trying to climb a mountain, right? And then let's say you're on the top of the mountain and you're saying to your friends, here's how I did it. That whole thing is the story of first I did this, then I did this, then I did this. So the storytelling piece is how you are presenting. It means that it's got drama, it flows, it's not mechanical. The origin of your idea is just one component of that story. It's just the beginning of introducing yourself and how this idea came into being. But you need to really think of the whole presentation as a story. And again, there's no better or worse way of doing it. The best way to get it right is to try it, and keep practicing and keep getting feedback, listen to that feedback and keep improving. It can sometimes take, 50, 60, 70 practice runs to get something that really, really works. Okay, so a quick concluding remark and then I'll hand over to Paul. So in the slides, you'll see a lot of references in there. All the materials are in there. There's 3 or 4 sample pitch videos in there. Also, if any of you want to stay in touch, if you've got any questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and we can go through anything you need to on there. But no, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for participating because that's the most important thing. And I'll hand over to Paul to conclude.
Because I'm going to ask a question while in fact we finish up.
Yeah, sure.
So today on Zoom, most meetings are not occurring in person, but we have many, many networking sessions, meetups, monthly meetings. Ty is holding meetings. We're doing breakout rooms, we're doing big rooms, etc. How can someone get my attention as a VC or whatever, or an angel investor? We're also doing angel investing here in Atlanta. How can people take one thing out of what you said today and get my attention in a minute or less?
So doing it online makes it really hard. And the best piece of advice I can give you is research the individual you're going to speak to. So let's say if I had a startup and if I had the opportunity to pitch to Paul, the first thing I would do is do my research on who is Paul, what is he interested in, what is he invested in, what is similar to me. And that way, when I start that conversation virtually, I could be like, hi, Paul, I know you've invested in, Stanley, and Stanley's really similar to us because of this. And I also know you've done this. You've got to work extra hard to build an instant human connection because it's so hard to do that virtually. So even if it's a few seconds, do throw that in at the beginning because doing your research matters because it builds a bond and it builds trust fast. In the real world, that trust is implied. You're in the room. You've had to cross a hurdle to get in the room. But virtually, you need to put in the effort in to do it. And most people don't do that. So if you put the effort in and do that, you're already ahead of most people that are going to be able to be in front of that investor.
Okay. Yeah, I think everybody took at least one, or I said 2 or 3 ideas. More importantly, hopefully you will, let me just stop sharing these, go back to my slides. And in that regard, Vikas, you said you're an email away should somebody have a question.
Yeah, I'll put my email into the chat.
Okay. I believe all the rest of the information's there. So I'm going to end the official recording. For the 3 teams that provided me some input, I'm going to take a 10-minute break. And in fact, in chat, I'll give you, or at least that you, the 3 teams that said you will do a 1-minute pitch, I'm going to send you a separate Zoom link. And in 10 minutes, we'll sign on there, record that, but we'll stay on here as long as people want, because...
Well, I just want to come in and say, I want to thank Vikas for taking the time out to do this. Vikas, you're fabulous as always. I know all the RISE teams, pre-Vikas and post-Vikas are completely transformed, right? And we've seen that time and again.
Thanks,
the RISE business plan. I've been there, thrice, and I've always seen that huge transformation that happens. Vikas's energy is infectious, and all of us get, energized when we do a session with him. And I'm sure all of you benefited from today's session. Thanks for joining this. And want to just confirm that all of you are going to be there in the Entrepreneur Bootcamp at TiECon. I sent Paul the mail yesterday, so we'll send you a mail to register, or if you send us, Paul can send us a bulk email, then we'll register everybody.
It's underway already with a survey. So
fantastic. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Vikas, once again.
Vikas, thanks for holding up our 4.8 on a 5-point scale record. We've been doing that now 3 in a row. In that regard, and we have the last one that we're doing next Saturday, so we're going to put them on the spot. It'll be JP James, who's does a Leap. He does a fintech company and a ex-hedge fund, and then Mahavir from Rajasthan is also a co-instructor, so you'll get some other, what do VCs and investors look for. So I'm going to end the recording here officially and leave it open for chat. Thanks for staying on. And for those, the 3 teams, I'm going to send you on chat here, the Zoom call to call into in what's now 9 minutes. So Vikas, you handle however you want, chat or remaining questions that are informal. Thanks all. Yeah. Great. And thanks, Vikas, for a great workshop.
So I've got another few minutes. So I've got another sort of 4 or 5 minutes on here. So if anybody wants to ask any more questions, feel free. Or if you want to connect on LinkedIn or email or anything as well, my details are all on there now. So be more happy to.
Because I have another question from my side.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, because I thought of having Zoom as the whole focal point to record the 10-minute pitch as well as elevator pitch for this forum. So will Zoom do the needful for the whole regard for the whole thing that is for the 1-minute pitch as well as for the 10-minute pitch?
So it depends on the competition, right? Because some people use Cisco WebEx, some people are using Zoom, some people are using other stuff, right? So what you need to do is so for example, at RISE this year, they were using Cisco WebEx. And so one thing that we did is we made sure that early on, we asked them, what platform are you using? And that way you can practice, because you don't want to be messing around on the day. So if you do have the opportunity to compete at a virtual competition, before the competition, email the organizer and say, what platform are you using? And then you can just download it and start practicing. So you know how it works exactly, and you can start making sure that you get to know it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, look, I just want to thank everyone again for just participating, and actually, being brave enough to do your pitches and put in the effort today. It's one of those things where it's probably in a way the most fun part of the pitch is doing this, but it's been really enjoyable getting to know all of you. I really enjoyed looking through your decks as well. And, as with all of the time mentors, we're all available whenever you need, however we can help. So just thanks everyone for your time. Thanks to Paul and Amin for your excellent support and facilitation as well. And we'll look forward to connecting again soon.